Yo, it is another edition of the High Hopes podcast. A Sunday morning, we have to record because the Phillies got Gregory Soto podcast. What up, buddy? Gregory Soto. We got like a dude out there, bro.
I know. They got Gregory Soto. Automatically becomes the best Soto in all of baseball. 100%.
Easily.
Can't think of another one that even compares to him. So, we have been talking in the last couple of podcasts of like, all right, they got Kimbrel, and you start going through it, and it's like, yeah, Kimbrel, Seranthony.
It's literally how we ended the last pod. I was like, Jack, this is the one area. I'm like, do they have enough here?
Yeah. And then I guess Dave was like, hey, I listened to the pod. I kind of agree. I kind of agree. So I just love that absolutely no one cares about the Eagles clinching the 1 seed today.
Mm-hmm.
Gregory Soto is at the top of everyone's brain. And James, this stat was thrown out yesterday by
so good.
81% of left-handers that threw 100-mile-an-hour fastballs last year were thrown by Jose Alvarado and now Gregory Soto. It's so funny, James, because I believe that the foundation of this podcast for the first 3-4 years that we did it was just give me guys to throw hard and have like ridiculous stuff. And now you start going through the entire bullpen and it's just stuff on stuff on stuff, slider, cutter, 98, 99. And it's like, what universe? Like, dude, 3 years ago, we were watching Mike Morin and like Blake Parker split their way into like whatever. We have come so far. And Gregory Soto, I can't wait, dude. I can't wait. And, we talked last podcast about, I kind of felt like they're going to name Kimbrel the closer. This signing just confirms that they're gonna go with whatever works every single night. Like whether it's Seranthony.
Well, they can. They
actually can.
Yeah, they got like matchup like guys now. Like you can really like play it by what you need to do and do it the right way. Like it's a really well put together pen where all the kind of strengths and weaknesses work together. Arms, all of it.
And the
lefties, Jack. We got like 3 lefties who we feel good about. What the hell is that, dude?
I mean, you want to talk about living in an alternate universe.
Yeah.
We're at a point now where let's say Seranthony or Kimbrel pitch 2 days in a row, and it's like, oh, we're going for 3 straight wins. Like, would hate to lose the momentum. It's like, hey, let's just throw Gregory Soto and close out the game.
Yeah, 30 saves last year. No big deal.
Well, because the last couple of years, it was like, oh my God, if Seranthony gets hurt, like we have no one that can get the last 3 outs of a ball game, and we would have to like go with whoever to close out a game. And now we're sitting here. There's 4 guys that you could have theoretically close out a game. It's insane. And I mean, on paper, it's far and away the best bullpen of my life. I mean, obviously the 08 bullpen, they ended up being the best bullpen that we've seen. But just stuff-wise, just talent-wise, just depth-wise, I mean, it's hard to fathom, James. They're top 7 right now. This is before even getting to interesting names. Is Seranthony, Soto, Alvarado, Kimbrel, Bilotti, Brogdon, Strahm.
I mean, I trust every single one of those guys. Like, I trust every dude. Any guy comes in, I'm like, yeah, they can get outs for me. Like, what is that, Jack? Mike Morin was throwing 60-mile-per-hour curveballs, Jack. Like, we were sitting there like, what you hated him. That made you so sad. Mike Morin being on the Phillies, like, broke your heart and soul. Like, that was the exact, symbol of all that was wrong with the Phillies at that moment for you, Mike Morin.
Well, it's because he just had nothing. Like he had no stuff, and that's what I hated. I hated guys that didn't have stuff. But like I'm looking over it, James. I mean, Tommy Hunter, Blake Parker, Adam Morgan, Brandon Workman, David Hale, Ramon Rosso, Heath Hembry, David Phelps, Diolis Guerra, who ended up being pretty good last year, Reggie McClain, Trevor Kelly, Austin Davis, Mauricio Olivero.
Davis. That was our lefty. We had Austin Davis coming.
Davis. Wow. I mean, think about it. Think about how far we've come. You want to talk about things that we've deserved, things that we've earned, like things that we've gone through the depths
we've
of hell.
earned, buddy. We've earned.
We've
earned this.
We had the single worst bullpen in the history of baseball. There was the Phillies have a lot of records for the worst things. The most losses. I feel like they've had the most errors. They've had like the least innings started by starters or whatever. And here we are, and they've sort of built a super-ish bullpen.
Yeah, dude, and that's the thing too, is coming off the World Series and seeing how that played out. Like, one of the biggest, if not the biggest reason the Astros beat the Phillies was because of the bullpen. It was the best bullpen we've seen, and they just shut it down time and time again when they needed to. That 3-2 game, obviously the no-hitter, the last game, like, it was just over. It was, other than game one, it was over when they went to the pen. And man, to your point, I honestly, like, it's hard for me to believe that this bullpen is this good, Jack. I'm so used to not trusting guys coming in from the pen on a consistent basis. And to your point, like, they're 7 deep. And that's even before we get into all the guys you talked about in the last one with the Drew Bakers and the Griff McGarrys and all these other options to go up and down, which you'll need depth. But all of a sudden they have dudes, they've got depth, they got high end. Like, it's a really well put together bullpen. You got 4 righties you can count on. You got 3 lefties you can count on. Like, it's like a really, I can't get over it. I can't get over it. I'm like, it was the one thing I said at the end of last pod. I'm like, look, I feel really good about the starting pitching, assuming we assume Painter's going to be a part of this later. And you think about that. And yeah, I could use a little more depth, but they're good there. We got something there. The lineup, we're going to feel amazing when Harper comes back. But I said to you, I'm like, I look at this bullpen and I worry if they're just a guy or two short. Like, if they don't have that, and you made a great case for the youngsters and how they can cycle guys in. And for the first time in a long time, we have that. But then they just go out and trade for a guy who is a difference maker and I know a lot of people have talked about this, and it goes to the stat that Suspense Barbecue put out there. But like, the Phillies were able to fix Jose Alvarado. Jose Alvarado was in the minors last season and then became one of the best relievers in the sport for 3 months. Like, this is the exact, and look, Soto has been way more consistent the last 2 seasons. I know he's got some control stuff, but way more consistent than Alvarado is. I mean, what's the ceiling with this guy? If they can get him where they need him to be, it was a masterclass of a move. And again, no offense to the guys we gave up. Like, we love Matty V. Thank you for everything. Nicky Maton, this fan base loved the guy. But I mean, they essentially gave up bench players to go get a guy who could be pitching like the 8th inning of the World Series for you, Jack. Like, that's the kind of trade they made.
And that's what makes it so surprising to me, because, like, if you're the Dodgers, why were you not more on this? If you're the Rays, in a way, and they know that a guy as talented as Gregory Soto is available, how are they not on it? And hey, maybe the Tigers value Nick Maton more than we do. And I think that if he played every day,
Dombrowski's relations probably mattered too. They probably did. And they have the guy who was with the Tigers last year, Chad or whatever his name is. They have the inside information on the whole thing, all that. Like, that stuff matters too. We know that.
No, it does. And Dombrowski talked about that yesterday, that he had some help from David Chad, I think his name is, that he had, good scouting on these players. But even if you have that, if you're just looking at pure stuff, if you're just looking at the numbers, you're looking at the spin, you're looking at just if you're one of these teams that has always had these super bullpens, the Astros, the Dodgers, like these teams that we view as smart, you let Dombrowski have a little master class for Nick Maton, Matt Vierling, like
how
Donnie Sands.
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
Like, it's crazy to me. So, just inside baseball for everyone out there, when Jim Salisbury, and shout out to Jim, had the scoop first, Jim tweeted out, hearing a possible Gregory Soto trade or whatever he said to the Phillies, or Phillies are in on Soto or whatever it was. Jack texted me Mick Abel. Like, that's what Jack thought we would probably have to give up to get a guy like Soto. And they gave up Matt Vierling and Maton and Donnie Sands. Like, we were ready to give up Mick freaking Abel for this guy, Jack.
Yeah, and maybe obviously that was an overreaction in the
moment. Overreaction, but still, the point being that I can't believe how much less than Mick Abel it was.
Well, because and my thought process was, he has 3 years of control left. He's been a back-to-back All-Star. He has some of the best stuff in the sport. Those kind of guys just seem to go for, they do. Like, it's not that, I just think those guys go for more than what they gave up.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I mean, maybe, listen, Vierling, I can't see an everyday player. Maton, I could see an everyday player. Donnie Sands is probably a DH more than a catcher. Yeah, I think they got 3 major leaguers, but you're giving up a legitimate you're giving up a possible guy that can, again, you mentioned it. He can pitch the 8th inning of the World Series. He can pitch the 9th inning of the World Series.
Yeah.
He can pitch in these big months because his stuff is that good. So I honestly just sit here more flabbergasted than anything that's all they gave up when the whole narrative around the sport is, the Dodgers have so much depth. They can go get anyone. Yankees, these teams, they can just go get whoever they want because they have loads and loads of young talent. The Phillies were able to get it done for guys who aren't going to start next year. I mean, is it nice to have the right-handed platoon option with Brandon Marsh if he struggles against lefties? I mean, yeah, he's a 519 OPS guy against lefties in his career, so hopefully he can figure that out. But dude, it's in a perfect world, these guys never play.
Exactly. They're bench guys. And they are replaceable. Maybe you can't get the same a young player with the potential and not that it's through the roof, but the potential Matt Vierling has. But you can get someone to give you more or less what Matt Vierling would give you this year for cheap. That is not a super expensive guy to add to this team. And again, to your point, look, or philosophically, if a team like the Tigers that is clearly not trying to compete this year, is not ready to make the steps or whatever that the Phillies are and all that, trading a controllable middle reliever for a young bat who can turn into something is the right trade. It's the right trade. They just got the wrong guys. They just traded for guys who are what's Vierling's ceiling? The 8th hitter in your lineup, maybe, and a fine defensive player. What's Maton's ceiling? Maybe an everyday second baseman. Maybe, I don't know. Probably not though. I just, and maybe Donnie Sands that can hit, and they are into that. Look, I think the idea of trading a controllable reliever for 3 bats, and if one of them hits, it was a great trade for the Tigers. I just don't think they got enough upside on these bats. And it's crazy to me, to your point, that one of these other teams who could absolutely would love to have Gregory Soto in their bullpen wasn't willing to give something. And maybe, again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Maybe the Tigers just really like these guys. Again, maybe Dombrowski's connections with the Tigers help pump these guys up, whatever, I don't know. But I was shocked, Jack. I was shocked that was all they gave up for this guy.
Well, apparently they think that Vierling can start at third base. So maybe that's...
Is that really the... Wow. Okay.
I think the quote was that Vierling and Maton are in the mix to start at third base.
So they got 2 starting middle infielders there. Wow. Yep. Good trade. Good trade, Tigers.
Listen, you got to do that deal any time of the week. Now, the very real possibility of this is that you and I are blind. And
Soto comes in and he's in the minors by the 3 months, like Alvarado, and then maybe they fix him, maybe don't. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But he's been good. He's been good the last 2 years. I know that there's been a little luck in there, and obviously the control stuff. And I will say, I am, and maybe you can speak to this. He doesn't have quite the strikeout rate I would expect for the stuff that he has. But he's still been really good. I mean, he's at what 3.39, 3.28 ERA the past years. Not that tells the whole story, but it's not like he's been an all-star. I know he's a Tiger, but it's because they need an all-star. But still, he has been, if nothing else, good at worst the last 2 years.
Well, and they have had Joe Jimenez and Alex Lang in the bullpen, and Soto's been the guy that they've put in the 9th inning. So it's not like they have no talent out there to where it's like, well, this is he's just the only guy that has semi good stuff in the bullpen.
Yeah, Joe Jimenez is good. I was bummed the Braves signed him.
I know. Well, to be fair, Alex Lang would have just been.
He's the
guy. He's the guy.
He's the guy. Yeah.
Regardless, we got Gregory Soto. But my thing is, in looking through his game logs, he would pretty much go a month where it's 0 or 1 run, whatever mixed in there, and then he'd have a 3 run, and then he'd have 2 weeks of good pitching, and then the 5 run, and then 2 weeks of good pitching and a 3 run that I think kind of jacked the ERA up. And that's just how it goes with bullpen pitchers. They don't pitch enough to keep the ERA down, and one kind of blow up outing gets it into the 3. So listen, there is a possibility that he comes in, he can't fix the control, and the strikeout numbers are weird. You'd think they'd be higher.
It's weird, right? I was surprised as I was going through all the numbers and all the stats that I was surprised by that. I mean, he's barely a 1 per inning. He's in that range. Maybe a little over, but nothing crazy.
But look at what Caleb Cotham and Brian Kaplan have done with less talented guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Andrew Bellotti was a 13K per nine guy last year.
Yeah.
Like
And
that
again,
was,
look what they did with a similar talent in Alvarado. Like
yeah, but
it's such a 1-to-1 to look at that guy and be like, oh, that guy. It's such a similar profile. So
and people keep bringing up, Alvarado and whatnot, and is he better than him? Like Gregory Soto is more talented than Jose. Like
yeah.
I think
Oh,
he's
and
more talented.
he's way more accomplished. Like he's
Yeah,
just had a better career so far than Alvarado. I mean, those 3 months Alvarado had, it's like he was okay in Tampa. He had some saves and you could see the talent. But the last 3 months Alvarado had are like light years the best thing he's ever done in baseball. And
yeah. I
Soto's
mean,
basically been a version of that for the last 2 years.
yeah. So if you look at his little baseball savant page, like way more whiff, like way more all of that. So like they added a legitimate difference maker, and it's just this is going to be the least surprising thing that I think you've ever heard. But I think for this, if you're a first time listener to this podcast, you'd be like, wow, that guy sounds insane. I'm way more excited for this bullpen than I am the lineup. Like
I knew that was coming. If you had said, what am I going to say here? That's what I would have said.
Like I am. I am such a sucker for stuff, and I'm such a sucker for a possible super pen, and just the idea that these guys can go 6 innings and bang 7, 8, 9. Like I have guys that I trust that are coming out of the bullpen. And maybe it's because I legitimately haven't felt that since 2008 and most of last year. But they're like it's such a pleasure. Like they are so like what is the hole right now? Like the hole is starting staff,
Yeah, back into the starting rotation. You could say like the Falter being your 6 or what at 5. Who knows how that kind of goes? Like until Painter can give you meaningful innings and you feel like he's not limited from an innings perspective and all that, they're gonna have a bit of a hole at the back end of the rotation, I think. And especially like we talked about with how many innings Nola and Wheeler pitched last year. I think they're going to need some people to fill in those gaps over the course of the season to give those guys blows when they need them and all that too.
Yeah, well, I was gonna, save this for later, but might as well just put it out now. But like, I think one of the things that they've done here is I wouldn't be surprised if they just go 6-man out of the jump. And I wouldn't be surprised, and I know that this is gonna ruffle feathers of the traditional baseball minds, but like for the first 2-3 months of the season, like I don't think I'm letting Nola and Wheeler pitch more than 5 innings to start. And just
Wow. But I don't disagree. I just love, you're absolutely right. This is the kind of thing where old school baseball fans would not like that.
They wouldn't, but I'm not letting them pitch more than 5 or 6 innings to start, 5 innings in a perfect world. And then I'm getting through the rest of the game with like the Falters, the Plasmeyers, the Chris Sanchez's, whether that's Griff, whether that's any of these guys. Like that gives you 4 options that they should give you some depth to where you can extend these games and you don't have to ride Wheeler and Nola into the ground so that they're not tired come September, come when the innings get more important. And this is kind of what they did last year. It was like last year they essentially gave Wheeler a month off. With Nola, they started giving him extra rest to make sure he's good to go, and it ended up benefiting them. Wheeler had a bit of a dead arm, I think, in the playoffs, but
still, I mean, who knows what it would have been if they hadn't given in that time, right? I mean, does he even make it through the playoffs if it weren't for that rest
so
they got?
I just have this idea that they're heading into the year. They know that Nola pitched 230 some innings, Wheeler 175, and pitching into Game 6 of the World Series. Go 6-man right from the jump. Let those guys pitch like 5 innings, and then hand it over the rest of the bullpen and kind of manage your way through this thing until you get to hopefully the postseason, and you can go from there. And then, around mid-August, September, start ramping them up, say, okay, now it's go time. Like we got to shut this thing down. We get Bryce back. And, hopefully it doesn't screw them early. Obviously,
the
plan.
That's that. And that's the part of it, right? It's that you're in the toughest division in the sport and you're going up against 2 teams that are both coming off 101 win seasons or whatever it is, 100 win seasons like that. And it does matter to win the division. Look, we saw the Phillies go on a run in the wild card game this year and go from there, but you don't want to have to play those extra games. You don't want to have to be a part of that first round, even though I know there was a lot of success for the wild card teams in the second round. And there's the argument with momentum and all that stuff. But I mean, ideally, the regular season is going to matter for this Phillies team. They can't just coast to the playoffs. Like they need to try and win this division. They need to try and set themselves up for playoff success. But having said that, even with that in mind, I think you're right, Jack. I think that the only way that they can, again, unless that, and look, the other part that we don't talk about is if they're in a certain position at the deadline and they can trade McAble for a starter or this or that, and you can change your team still in season. But like, I just don't see how you make a deep run in the playoffs if you don't get Nolan Wheeler rest throughout the season. Like, I just don't see how those guys could do what they did last year, come back after, again, a short off season. We're not used to that either. They played in November. We're usually done at the end of September. That I don't know how you have to get those guys rest. You can't just say, all right, go out and do it again. Like, they will not last.
They won't. And it's kind of like why they should sit Jalen today.
Who cares about the Eagles today, Jack? It's a Phillies Sunday. What are we doing here?
Yep. They're 16-point favorites. I'm sure Gardner Minshew couldn't beat Davis Webb today. No, but like
I do love that they're like the whole like Giants not playing their starters went from Tyrod Taylor to like we're just gonna throw Davis.
Dude, he hasn't thrown a pass in the NFL.
We care so little about this game that we don't even want to get our backup quarterback hurt. Cool.
Yeah. Yep. But we got to get Hurts out there because they're gonna blow it. Who's not 100% anyway. It's just whatever.
That was way too much Eagles talk. What are we doing here?
I know it's Gregory Soto today.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like they have to be. I know like Angelo might come out of retirement if they come out and they're like, listen, Wheeler and Nola, no more than 5 innings to start. Like I think Angelo signs a 3-year deal, a 3-year extension.
Yeah, I'm back in the middays in that case. Nothing changes for me. Yeah.
And I know like it sounds insane, but they have the depth now. Like we don't have to. This is what now. It's not the best example because they choke every year, but this is essentially what the Dodgers have done. The Dodgers don't let their guys get overworked. Now, I do think it does have to be a balance. Like, I don't think you can do this throughout the entire year and expect them to go into the postseason and be like, all right, give me 7.
You need those, and also you need your relievers to be fresh too. I know you have a bunch of guys that you can go through, but you don't want to do it to the point where you overwork some of these guys where you don't get the best Soto or the best Alvarado or the best. I mean, we saw those guys. I mean, Alvarado. That was one of the biggest reasons they ended up losing is because he just didn't have anything left in the tank by the end of it. So you got to worry about both sides of that. It's not just the starters; it's also those relievers.
Yeah,
and in November and stuff too.
And you probably extended to the bullpen too, like no back-to-backs until July.
Joe Girardi.
Oh, he's finally got his team. Would you let Joe Girardi come back and manage his team now that he has he essentially has a super team? That he essentially has like a super bullpen? Would you let Joe come back? Say, all right. Man. We got you what you were looking for. We basically built what you had in New York. Yeah. Now go try to win with it. But yeah, now the difference is that last year they had to pitch the guys on back-to-back because they didn't have the depth. Like Knebel should have been pitching back-to-backs and those guys because they need wins.
And look what happened at Knebel, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now with the depth they have, which with the top 7 where you could trust some of those guys, 4 or 5 of them to close out a game, you can kind of mix and match and manage guys.
Real quick, can we just not gloss over the statement that you just like? We have 4 dudes who can come in and close a game. What? The Phillies? Is that allowed, Jack? Is that allowed?
Dude, between that and Craig Kimbrell in his press conference the other day talking about how the Phillies biomechanics or whatever got him sold on everything. It's like, what world are we living in right now? To where the Phillies have
smart world, Phillies smart team world.
I think they have the second most analytics isn't the right word, but the second most scientists guys or whatever in baseball behind the Dodgers.
It makes me so happy to hear that.
Well, now listen, and factor in that they're building a $300-some million complex down in Clearwater to make it even more souped up. And dude, might start tearing up. Honestly, this is more important to me than winning the
We're entering the golden era of the Phillies. All this stuff, it's good. Dombrowski set up the organization for success.
Dude, it's so funny. It's I just wish we could go back to the beginning. When Dave Dombrowski walked in and he was like, we're going to do this, 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 and this. And Middleton's like, sweet. I don't know. I'm just take it. Just
cool.
Whatever. Just
here's my checkbook. Go ahead. Whatever you need, buddy.
That's what they're doing, dude. That's what they're doing. That is what they're doing is that, listen, you can have Steve Cohen all you want. You can, but without the right guy running the team, it doesn't ultimately matter. And the Phillies have a good mix.
It's so true. And also to your point, I think Middleton always wanted to be the type of owner who trusted he did trust Clentac and McPhail too much, even right to the point where at the end he kind of just had to step in and start doing things and get involved and doing the Harper stuff and all that. But I think that ideally Middleton wanted someone there that he just felt confident, knew what he was doing, and he could give him money and support him and let him do it. The problem was with Clentac and McPhail, he couldn't trust them, and he found that out. And he's like, "Oh crap, I can't give them my money. I can't let them do this stuff. I have to be involved." I think ideally this is what Middleton wanted to.
Well, and the other thing that it has made me realize is that, I think that in a perfect, like, I think I think they wanted to hire Chaim or whatever. And the difference between Chaim is that the Red Sox wanted to build the Rays from a standpoint of not spending any money. Whereas the Phillies have essentially, if things go to plan, the Dodgers hired Friedman, and then we're also like, hey, you can go spend a ton of money as well. And it's like, they are almost developing a perfect mix. Now, the last thing that they have to get completely right is developing hitters and
drafting and developing hitters
and more guys through the draft and figuring that out. But even that, they did a whole overhaul, James. Like, they hired another guy from Driveline that's all like biomechanics.
I saw it. Biomechanist here got hired by the Phillies. It's like, you're damn right you did, buddy. You're damn right you did.
Don't know what you do. Couldn't explain it to anyone, but
no, I don't even really know what a biomechanist does, but I want a room full of them down in the complex. Yes,
but you read everything they're going through with the player development stuff, and it's like they want a mixture of old school and new school. They're developing a Phillies way. Like they're bringing in new.
What does this sound like? I've never heard these concepts except the entire history of this podcast.
Again, we gave them the blueprint. And to their credit, listen, they got some. Listen, we were wrong, Dombrowski. Whatever. Yeah. We might have been wrong, but they're doing everything we wanted. And now they added Gregory Soto to a bullpen that was already pretty good. Now puts them over the top. They're adding in their best prospect in the history of the franchise to be in the starting staff next year. They have Trey freaking Turner. Like they have a $250+ million payroll. They went through the luxury tax. Think
about what they have. They have like $500 million guys, right? I mean, Casty over 100. Casty, JT. Harper, Trey, JT, Wheeler, all over 100 million. Nola is going to be over 100 million soon, I would think. Schwarber 80 million. Like, no jokes, man.
Taijuan Walker 70.
72 or 70. Well, that was the thing. It was what was it? The White Sox. Oh, who was it they signed? They signed someone to Benintendi. It was a $75 million deal, and it was the biggest contract in the history of their franchise, man. Middleton's done 5 more than that in the last 4 years.
Well, the biggest one is Zach Eflin. I mean, $30 million.
Yeah, I know, to the Rays. But that's less surprising that I mean, it's still insane that that's their biggest contract. But the White Sox have been around forever. The most they've ever spent is $75 million on someone. That's nuts. It does show that sometimes, I know we've gotten a little, you can get a little frustrated as the losing happens and stuff, but Middleton really has put his money where his mouth is, literally and figuratively.
100%. And now he's got the right guy running it. They brought in Ani, who, dude, every time I watch the guy they traded for the other day, Ullman, or as we call him on this
slider
podcast, the slider guy. Every time I watch him, it's like, why in the world did they give him up? It doesn't make it doesn't compute in my brain that they gave that guy up. He is so, if you make minor changes to him, he is so obviously a top 7 guy in a bullpen. It's obvious. It's a wipeout slider. It's a fastball that they can fix and move around. It's a guy that they got for cash. And that screams Ani. That just screams Ani. Luis Ortiz, the guy they picked up from the Giants, Andrew Vasquez, they were both mentioned by Dombrowski yesterday or a couple of days ago on the Kimbrel thing as guys that they think can help this bullpen that they just claimed off waivers.
Yeah. The Noah Som move that we talked about. It just seems like they're for a podcast that I feel like for the first 5 years never got to talk about smart things, maybe some fun big signings, but never wow, that was some next level stuff the Phillies are doing there. You see what they did? They went, we never had those conversations, and I feel like they have it all the time now. And they're not all going to hit, but if you hit on one of those guys, it's like, wow, what a move,
Well, and they're going after the right guys. Yeah. They're going after guys that have stuff, and I love that. They're just, I forget what I wanted to say, but the overall point is that they just continue to do smart things. They continue to team. Oh, that's what I want to say. I think the Gregory Soto trade officially qualifies as there's the cool trade.
Yeah.
For the
Oh,
last
that's
couple
definitely the cool trade. Definitely the cool trade. For
and
sure.
like it fits the criteria of go trade for a guy with stuff, go trade for a guy that has 3 years of control left after this. That can be a back end. Don't go sign now. They signed Kimbrel. I understand that. But don't go sign one of these older guys for a ton of money.
Well,
Don't
and the
don't
Kimbrough signing feels way less annoying paired with the Soto trade. It's like, all right. So basically, because Soto's makes nothing. It's like, all right, so I'm paying like 12 mil for both those guys. Yeah, it sounds great, or whatever it is,
Yep.
less.
So the Soto trade qualifies as the cool Dabrowski trade. It fits every criteria of what I wanted. And it's now on Caleb Kaufman and Brian Kaplan to get him to be, the best version of himself, because I think the best version of Gregory Soto is like one of the 10 best relievers in baseball.
Wow.
Like, I mean, his stuff is that good. I mean, you see the slider.
His stuff is definitely that good.
It's
Again,
91,
the
101
slider is
fastball.
insane. And then we go back. Yeah, exactly. Again, I don't take that stat lightly that 81% of 100-mile-per-hour or more fastballs thrown by left-handed pitchers last year were thrown by Alvarado and Soto. I mean, that's an astounding number, Jack. 81%. Yeah. Like that is stuff. They got dudes with stuff.
Well, and I guess he was messing around with changeup last year. Like he threw like
9. Mess around, why not? Maybe have it come back with a changeup. Sure.
Yeah, see if it works. Keep expanding on that. I'm sure the Phillies will teach him a cutter. Whatever.
That's what we do.
The Mariano Rivera factory over here with the Phillies. So, dude, I can't believe it. They've built a almost. Now, listen, they're gonna have to go out and play, and there's good teams in the NL East. I understand, but they have built a damn near flawless team.
Yeah, once Harper comes back, it really, player for player, it is arguably, it's one of the 2 or 3 best, just flat out rosters in baseball. 3, 4, or 5, whatever. It's like it's in the discussion. Like they're absolutely. We know they almost won the World Series last year. They're clearly talented enough to, but they are really a really well put together, well thought out team that just makes a lot of sense. And I go back to something you said earlier that just kind of has stuck with me this whole time. And it's something we joke about with defense and have for, years, where we always do that. Like, who cares about defense? Just go out and mash. And then, 5 games into a season, we're like, oh my God, get some guys who can freaking catch the ball, please. Like, this is the worst thing. Like, so like kills you, right? Like, there is nothing worse as a baseball fan than watching a bad bullpen on a night-to-night basis. There's nothing worse. How much have we talked about over the year 2020? 2021, even like where it's like you can't ever feel good about a baseball game. There's any game you could lose at any time. And that's the worst feeling as a sports fan, as a baseball fan. Like, to just have dudes out there we can trust to come in and get outs when we need them is like, as people who watch every single game, I can't emphasize enough how excited I am to have that in my life, Jack. Like, I can't. It's like it's amazing. It's gonna be such a great feeling.
Well, and listen, I made money just every time the Phillies had a lead. It's like, well, here comes the live bet. I could just sense it. Like, it's like my feels like a lost sense.
Oh, it's
I feel
from
like
that.
They're gonna be they're gonna be off this year, because it's like, well, I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Usually I can just sense it. Just here it comes. But now I don't know if it's gonna be that obvious. And you mentioned the bullpen being the worst thing. Like, which is worse, a bad bullpen or bad receivers in football?
A bad bullpen. Jack, I said this during the 2020 run and all that, and I still believe it's this day. I really feel this way. I think that in all sports, the American sports that we follow, having a bad bullpen is the worst thing. I think it's the worst one of all of them. I honestly believe that. I do. Just obviously, like, you can't win if you don't starting, and there's a million things going on. But just in terms of a unit that breaks your soul the most when it sucks, there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse. Because how many times you get wins turned into losses with everything else you do, right? Like, that's what they do. They turn wins into losses right in front of our eyes on a night-to-night basis.
That's what we do, baby. That's what we do.
Not anymore, buddy.
Not anymore. Because let me just run through this one more time, James.
Yes, please.
A top 7 of Sir Anthony, Soto, Alvarado, Kimbrel, Bellotti, Brogdon, Strahm. And that's not even.
Man. It's good.
It's not even factoring in, James.
And again, four righties, 3 lefties. It's just like,
Drew Baker, Ullman, Griff McGarry, Sam Coonrod, Nick Nelson, Luis Ortiz, Andrew Vasquez. Like, and that's not even factoring if you want to go even deeper, Andrew Schultz. And you want to keep going down into the minor leagues with all the guys they've drafted the last couple of years. They're like 100 and seeing what they can do and being brought up. Like it's insane. It's
Pretty
insane.
thrilling.
It's insane. And then if you want to go through it, you want to extend the rotation out, you can go Falter, Plasmeyer, Sanchez. Like, give the guys a break. It's freaking awesome, man. It's freaking awesome. And I can't wait to see I can't wait to see Soto. I can't wait to see the back of the bullpen. I can't wait to just I can't wait, James, to essentially kick my feet up. Nice. You know what I mean?
Well
just
done.
Kick your feet up.
Well done.
Let the game run on cruise control.
Mm-hmm.
The back end's got it. Now, I think Soto's going to have those outings where it's like, oh my gosh, this is awful. You know? Like,
well, they're going to be those like Alvarado does or has in his, yes, he will have those.
Not new Alvy.
No, not new as much. Other than, I don't know, the World Series, potentially.
Well, I still don't know what happened in Game 6. Didn't watch it.
Hey, buddy, keep it that way. Let me tell you.
I turned off the yearbook.
You won't like what you found. You did. You stopped it at that moment.
Yeah. I've made it a point that I will never see a replay of the Yordan Alvarez home run. Well, I watched it live.
Good work by you.
I will not ever watch it again.
Good.
And that's something I'm going to pass that down to my
That's
son.
Good. Look, yeah. I mean, it was the worst. Ball still hasn't landed. It's pretty great.
Before we get out of here.
Yes. You have to work today. Look at you.
Just another day.
Another day.
No, I'm gonna be sitting there at the pregame show, freezing and just thinking about Gregory Soto, and the back of the bullpen. So it's all good. So when my future son becomes of age, do I go back through all the yearbooks? Like, would you?
Well, first of all, you're going to like this. This question is like a rhetorical question because you already know the answer. You're definitely going to, but. Yes, I think you do. I think.
What year do I start at the 06?
I think you started where I think you started somewhere where you feel like you started it so he can go on your journey with you.
Correct.
Right. But I think he needs to know. I think he needs to know what he is now a part of, what he is joining the fraternity that we have here. Like it's built on pain, right? Like it just is. And maybe this year's not going to be, and that's cool, but he has to know where his roots come from.
Yep. And I think I'll identify the correct podcast to go back and listen to, losers.
Yeah.
I
always think about that like years later, if Zoe goes back and listens, like when like some of the like stuff I've said or this or that or whatever, it's always like, what is wrong with you, Dad? Like, why would you say that about me on your Anyway, she's great. I love my daughter. That's the thing.
Good. I'm proud of you, buddy. That's a good sign. And last thing before getting out of here, is the perfect cherry on top to replace Matt Vierling would be a nice 1-year signing of Adam Duvall.
I love that move, dude. I like Adam Duvall. He's had moments in the playoffs. It seems like every year, if he gets a shot, he hits 30+ homers. Like, I like the dude. He can play defense a little bit. Like, I'm pretty good with
Gold Glove center fielder.
Yeah. Is he a Gold Glover?
I think he won the Gold Glove a couple years.
Wow, because I know he's good. A solid. Like, I didn't realize he was that good. I mean,
well, I think at least all his advanced metrics were like, this guy's ridiculous.
But I love that. I like what's it cost? A few mil? Like that's not.
He won the Gold Glove in 2020.
Wow, I did not. That's my bad. I didn't realize he was quite that good. I love that. I would be all in on Adam Duvall. He's a winning dude. He's like a Edmundo Sosa. He's like just a guy who's on winning teams. I love it.
Oh, you know who else? Like what a dorky franchise the Cardinals are. They had 2 Gold Glovers that year. I mean, how many times do you have to learn that defense doesn't matter?
I know. I mean, if we just saw which team won in the playoffs? Was it the Cardinals or the Phillies this year? I couldn't remember.
People forget that.
They do. All right. This was fun, man. I'm really happy. I'm like, as a Phillies fan, I'm really happy right now. I just needed to be Philly season. Like, let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So we got to get through this little football thing first.
And it's possible Super Bowl run. Boring. Yeah. The real season starts March 30th.
Yeah. Give me freaking, Gregory Soto getting outs in April, and I'll feel like sports are back, right? Come on.
Let me watch all spring training games in the hospital when I have to wait.
Yeah, it is. So it's the end of March. Is that when it is, right?
Yeah, end of March.
Wow, you're March 15th. How about that? Oh, I'm so excited. We're gonna have so much fun with it. The content. All right, you got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Final thoughts is the Eagles should bench Jalen today. They should not play him. And Gregory Soto is a Philly, and it's okay. Like, we can go to bed at night not worrying about our bullpen, and that's a good spot to be in.
It's a great spot to be in. My final thought is what I expected Jack to say, and said he went the other way. Who cares about the Eagles? Go Phils. He's Fritz and Seltzer.